My name's Taylor, and I was adopted at birth. I think being adopted brings this push and pull of, am I where I came from? Am I, where I was raised in the environment that I was raised in? I think I had just spent my whole life wanting to prove something to somebody, and I was outwardly able to perform, but on the inside, I was making incredibly terrible choices. It really all came crumbling down in my second year of college. I was 19 years old. I met my husband about 6 months after meeting AJ. I found out that I was pregnant. Obviously, a huge turning point in our life. And it was kind of like my mask had finally crumbled, and I was no longer able to hide my struggles. They were now out there for everybody to see. And the closest thing that I had to any kind of spiritual mentor in my life, when we told them, their response to that was, "Well, are we surprised? Isn't that what her birth mom did?" And it was like every fear that I'd ever had in my life came true in that moment. And so we had our little boy, and we lived in Section 8 housing for a long time. I was laid off on my maternity leave. My husband worked as a part-time teller. I just remember there was a day where I was at the grocery store, and I was pushing him around, and he was sick. And so, I'm at this point 20, and I have this sick baby, and I had no money, and I had no idea what to do other than I knew that I could either afford for him to get medicine that we were there to get, or I could afford for us to have dinner. And I sat there, and for the first time, I just cried. And it was the first time in public where I just let myself kind of get lost in that moment. And that was so life-changing for me, to just be able to allow myself to be a hurting person, and just to recognize that my life was hard and was not necessarily even going the way that I had planned on it going. But just that I loved this little boy, and I loved my husband so much that, we went hungry that night, and we got our son his medicine. And I remember going home and sitting there, and that was just when we knew that something had to change. We didn't have people. We proved nothing to nobody, and we just needed to find something. And we walked into a non-denominational church for the first time in our life. And the coolest thing was just each week that we went, I just feel like walls in our life were torn down one at a time. Not only was the church full of broken and healing people, they sought out the broken people. They chased outside of the church to go find people like my family and my birth family, both of whom were so broken in such different ways. And it gave us the ability to see that God was always with us. He didn't abandon us somewhere along the way. And here we are now. That was 9, almost 10 years ago. We have 5 kids through both biology and adoption. And where I was struggling lifelong with my identity, not knowing where to place it. Am I where I came from? Am I where I'm raised? I didn't really know if I wanted to fully be either of those. And now I know that I don't have to be, because my identity is in Christ.